Discover the sinister truth. A 1913 family portrait hides a terrifying secret in the baby's face. Just when Claire thought she could breathe again, her new life in the cozy suburb of Ohio turned into an unsettling nightmare. It was supposed to be a fresh start for her and her 6-year-old son, Max, but echoes of their troubled past clung to her like shadows in the night. The old house loomed in the twilight, its weathered facade a mixture of charm and dread. The peeling paint seemed to whisper secrets, and Claire's instincts screamed that they were not alone. Claire explored the attic late one evening, a mere escape from the mundane chores that had become her life. Dust hung thick in the air as she stumbled upon a forgotten family portrait. The sepia-toned image showed the Holloway family ensconced in a garden that looked almost otherworldly. But it was the baby's eyes that chilled her blood. Those dark, sunken eyes seemed to bore right into her soul, as if they held a malignant secret, an omen of something horrible yet to unfold. Ignoring the unease clawing at her gut, Claire couldn't shake off the feeling that she had just stumbled on a piece of dark history. As she pieced together articles and neighborhood lore about the Holloways, the story twisted into an unspeakable tale of tragedy and disappearance. The family vanished, melded into the whispers of the suburb, like a stain that refused to wash away. Nightmares of neighbors vanishing without a trace haunted the edges of her logic, echoing with every creak of the house. She wrestled with her own anxieties. Could her new haven disguise a sinister underbelly? Evenings turned sinister, the house felt alive with strange noises that slithered through the walls, creaking and rustling like whispers. Max, with his childlike innocence, began to talk about his new imaginary friend named Billy. It was a name that sent icy tendrils creeping up Claire's spine because Max's description was a twisted reflection of the baby in that cursed photograph. Claire attempted to reason with herself. Children have imaginary friends, but as the nights unfurled, her rationalizations crumbled under the weight of dread. One night, her frantic calls for Max went unanswered. Heart pounding, she ventured through the dimly lit corridors, only to find him standing at the end of the hall, lost in the shadows. He was laughing, his eyes vacant and fixated, as if entranced by something unseen. "Billy says hi," he giggled, the sound drilling deep into Claire's heart, morphing joy into pure terror. This eerie laughter echoed off the walls, filling the air with a tension that crackled like static. "Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Days morphed into a chilling blur. Max's innocent interactions with Billy turned darker, each night drawing him further into shadowy depths where Claire feared to tread. The vibrant smiles of cheerful neighbors now appeared garish, as one by one, she unearthed shocking truths, a web of connection to the Holloways, of missing children, and cursed ties to authorities that seemed too well acquainted with the darkness in their neighborhood. Claire's heart raced. She now lived within a community steeped in buried secrets. Cornered by whispers and an unseen malevolence, Claire recognized that the terror wasn't just of the ghostly sort, it thrummed in the very present, hidden within the faces she once deemed friendly. Just as Claire began to uncover the cryptic ties that bound her and Max to this history of horror, the ground shifted beneath her feet, and the past clawed its way back. Max needed her, but was Claire ready to confront the blood-chilling truth of their very lives intertwined with the Holloways? As echoes of distrust and danger shadowed both her son and her sanity, the question loomed, how far was she willing to go to shield him from a fate intertwined with the very fabric of the house and horrors that had long been tucked away? The walls whispered, the shadows stretched, and the chilling truth began to unravel, threatening to consume them both. The air grew denser as night enveloped the house. Shadows slithered along the walls, distorting shapes and feeding Claire's growing paranoia. With each creak of the floorboards, her heart drummed louder, urging her to flee, yet she couldn't abandon Max. He was drifting deeper into his conversations with Billy, and Claire felt like a bystander in her own life. That evening, Claire made a decision. She would confront whatever lingered in the dark. She waited until Max was tucked in, his small body swaddled in the blue dinosaur blanket that had once provided him comfort. She glanced into his room, finding him staring wide-eyed at the corner, lost once more in silent communion with his imaginary friend. "Billy says it's a big secret," he whispered, his voice tinged with a sweetness that felt utterly foreign. "Max, sweetheart," Claire said gently, stepping into the room. "What's Billy telling you?" But the child merely giggled and turned away, his attention drifting to something unseen. The hairs on Claire's neck stood up. She retreated to the living room, her mind racing. The reports of missing children echoed through her thoughts like a ghastly chorus. It was time to dig deeper. The portrait she had found in the attic seemed to loom over her thoughts. It felt less like a relic of the past and more like a cursed object planted to torment her. Armed with determination, Claire ascended the stairs to the attic once more. Dust motes danced in the dim light as she reverently lifted the dusty frame from where it rested. The baby's eyes were haunting each time she looked at them, she felt their grip tightening around her heart. Suddenly, the attic window rattled violently as though driven by an unseen force. Claire staggered back, dislodging a box that tipped over, spilling its contents: old letters, faded photographs, and a diary. She picked it up, acutely aware of the chill creeping up her spine. As she flipped through the diary, its pages were filled with frantic scrawls, a mother's desperation. Phrases like "the garden holds them and never let them leave" sent icy fingers down her back. It detailed the Holloway family's last moments, talking about the wind that whispers, and the shadows that come alive. Claire felt herself spiral into a dreadful realization: whatever happened to the Holloways had tethered itself to the fabric of this place. Suddenly, a sharp clap echoed through the boughs outside, and Claire leaped, startled. Max's door creaked open, and he stepped inside, rubbing his sleepy eyes. "Mommy, Billy says he wants to meet you," he murmured with unsettling nonchalance, as if he were suggesting a playdate. "Max, you can't," but the words clawed at her throat. A sudden urgency surged. She had to protect her son from whatever Billy was, but there was an inexplicable pull within her, a curiosity that masked horror. "Can you ask Billy to come meet me here?" Claire found herself saying, against her better judgment. Immediately, Max perked up, a wide, innocent grin blossoming across his face. Before she could backtrack, a shiver raced down her spine as the lights flickered ominously. Outside, whispered cries danced on the wind, sounding too much like laughter mixed with despair. The feeling of being watched constricted around her, tight and suffocating. "Mommy, he says he's almost here." "He's so excited." Max's voice trailed off, the humor now replaced with eerie anticipation, chilling Claire to the core. Every instinct screamed for her to run, but the mounting terror held her captive. What would she confront next? What horrors awaited her when Billy arrived in the masquerade of a child's play? The door creaked, a shadow shifting across the threshold. Was Claire ready to face her nightmarish reality, where innocence twisted into something grotesque? The answer loomed just out of reach, yet close enough to taste, darker than any secret she had yet uncovered. The door creaked open wider, and Claire's breath caught in her throat. What stood on the other side wasn't a child at all. It was a figure, shrouded in shadow, barely holding the shape of a boy. Just as quickly as fear swelled within her, the blackness pulsed with an insidious energy, and Claire felt herself teetering on the edge of madness. "Mommy, this is Billy," Max said, his eyes shining with something that looked too bright for comfort. The shadow shifted, settling closer to Max, an unknown presence that sent a chill straight down Claire's spine. The room grew colder, her heart thudding wildly in response. "Billy is my best friend," Max continued, blissfully unaware of the malignant tension prickling the air. "He says he brought a surprise." "A surprise?" The question slipped out, barely a whisper. The back of her mind was screaming for her to grab Max, to pull him away, but his innocent gaze held her captive, shackling her thoughts while the newcomer lingered. "Yes, Mommy. Look." Max pointed, and in a flash, the atmosphere around them shifted. The shadow stretched across the floor like a vine seeking roots, wrapping around Claire's feet and inciting paralysis. "What did you bring, Billy?" she asked, her voice trembling. In that very moment, the shadow seemed to unfurl, revealing a small, dark object that rolled across the floor. It stopped at Claire's foot, the dim light barely illuminating its surface. It was a small, cracked porcelain doll, the kind that would haunt a child's nightmares. "Billy says it's a plaything," Max chimed, but Claire could see something darker in the way the shadow moved, a sinister glee wrapped tightly around fear. "I don't want it," she stated firmly, her voice a mere murmur caught in a whirlwind. But Max was already crouching to pick it up, his little fingers brushing over the doll's cracked cheek. With a brush of his thumb, the eyes of the doll flickered open, dark voids sucking light instead of reflecting it, and Claire could have sworn she heard a fleeting giggle, high-pitched and childlike, the laugh of something ancient and malevolent. "Billy says she's lonely," Max said, his voice faltering, as if he were no longer sure of his own enthusiasm. "No. Put her down," Claire shouted, her instincts roaring in defiance. The flickering lights above them surged, plunging the room into a menacing dusk. Shadows slithered along the walls, stretching towards Max, and the doll seemed to pulse with life of its own. Max looked up at her, confusion clouding his features. "But she wants to play with us." "Playing isn't safe, Max. We need to." Suddenly, the temperature dropped further, cracking ice forming on the edges of her sanity. The air thickened as whispers began to swell from the doll, rising like smoke, the voice shifting and swirling, distorting into maddening echoes of desperate laughter. Claire's heart raced. Something terrible was awakening inside her home. "Nah. Billy says if we don't play now, bad things will happen." Max stood resolute, tension coiling around him like the darkness that filled the room. Claire's mind spun, battling back helplessness. What had she unwittingly invited into their lives? The temperature dropped further, her breath visible in the frigid air. "I need you to listen to me, Max," Claire pleaded. But the look in his eyes was vacant now, as if he was being pulled somewhere she couldn't reach. "Mommy, you don't understand. We need to let her in." And then a piercing scream broke through the laughter, echoing off the walls. A child's scream, filled with pure terror. It echoed from nowhere and everywhere, resonating within the hollow of charnel memories and forgotten names. The shadows writhed in response, and Claire felt its force crashing over her like a wave. She stumbled back, clutching the diary to her chest, the only window to the truth she desperately sought. "Max," she rasped, feeling the walls of her reality buckle under the growing darkness. "Max. We need to." But the child stood there, unyielding, a vessel for a force she could no longer comprehend. The doll quivered, and for a terrifying moment, Claire saw the darkness mirrored in her son's eyes. The world shattered around her, fragments snapping like dry twigs underfoot. Reality was changing, molding itself according to a malevolent will, and all Claire could think about was how far the abyss had spread. In that moment, Claire knew. She had to fight not just for her son, but for their very souls. And as the shadows closed in, absorbing every flicker of light, she felt that the truth was closer than it had ever been, yet the cost of knowing might consume everything she loved. With a whispering voice, the shadows stirred, and something stirred in the depths of the doll, beckoning. Would she take the plunge into darkness to save her son, or was the light forever lost? The doll's laughter echoed throughout the room, a chilling sound that felt like ice water sloshing around in Claire's veins. She gripped the diary tighter, its pages rough against her palm. It was more than a book, it was a last line of defense and a beacon of all her unanswered questions. "Max, you have to listen to me," Claire insisted again, her heart pounding as she scanned the room. Light flickered chaotically, creating grotesque images of fear on the walls. She felt the shadows closing in, the icy tendrils creeping further up her legs, tightening like a vice. "Mommy, she just wants to be our friend." Max was resolute, his little face a mask of innocence warped by the shadow's influence. He held the doll up to his chest, cradling it like a precious treasure. The darkness curled around them like a serpent, hissing secrets only the damned could hear. "Billy doesn't want to hurt us," he said, eyes bright and glazed, as if he were in a dream, far away from her pleading. The jagged edges of panic dug deeper into her heart. The whispers grew louder, morphing into a cacophony of voices faintly familiar, echoing from her deepest fears. Claire's mind raced. She remembered the diary recounting tales of lost children, of shadows that fed on innocence and despair. Hadn't she been warned? "Enough!" Claire shouted, her voice slicing through the chaos. "We will not let it win." She stomped her foot, intent on breaking the tether that bound Max to this nightmare. The room surged with energy, shadows recoiling as if struck. But the doll, clutched tightly in Max's grasp, squirmed with malevolence, its cracked eyes locked onto Claire, drinking in the fear that shimmered off her skin like mist. "Mommy, don't!" Max cried. But the energy in the room shivered in response, a violent wave rippling just below the surface, ready to pounce. With a surge of determination, Claire lunged, reaching for the doll. Just as her fingers brushed against the porcelain, the world seemed to tilt. An overwhelming force pushed her back, slamming her against the cold wall. The breath left her lungs, her vision swirling with black and white shapes, a nauseating tide threatening to drag her under. Suddenly, Max screamed, a sound both powerful and vulnerable, as if he felt the reality of his mother slipping away. "Mommy!" In a gut-wrenching moment, Claire met his terrified gaze. The desperate connection pulled at something deep within her. If she could just reach him, pull him back from the edge of the abyss. Then she remembered the diary. With a grunt of effort, Claire twisted her body against the oppressive force. She needed the words, the binding rituals nestled within the pages, the tales of defiance. They would pull Max away from this malevolent grasp, away from the dark whispers of Billy. As the shadows lunged once more, Claire forced her way to the diary. "Listen to me, Max," she shouted, her voice barely breaking through the storm of freezing air. "You are stronger than this. We're not alone." The flickering light stuttered, dimming in time with the rise of her resolve. Images from the diary flickered in her mind, stories of reclaiming lost souls, of binding the darkness, of fierce mothers fighting for their children. The room spun as she held the diary higher, words racing to the surface of her consciousness. The shadows writhed, unsure, hesitant. "Join me!" Claire roared, her voice unyielding, clutching onto the hope of rekindling the bond, of pulling Max back from the precipice. In that moment, the shadows faltered, and something very close to fear flickered in their darkness. "Billy doesn't want that," Max wailed, confusion and fear pooling in his eyes. "He wants us to play." With every ounce of desperation, Claire cried, "We will not play your game. Release my son." The air crackled, and from the depths of the doll came a pulsating energy, a flicker of something ancient stirring, resenting her refusal to submit. The shadows pushed forward, a tsunami of darkness crashing against her will. Max's eyes narrowed, caught in a struggle between childhood innocence and the ancient force that now tried to consume him. "What are you doing, Mommy?" he asked, voice trembling but beginning to clear. Claire could feel at the crucial moment that would decide everything. The room held its breath, waiting, teetering on the edge of either salvation or irreversible doom. And then, just as things began to clear, another figure materialized, pale and heart-stoppingly familiar beyond the doll, whispering secrets long buried. Who had she awakened? What dark truths were hiding just beneath the surface? The air thickened with dread as the figure stepped closer. Claire squinted, trying to make out details through the shadows. It was no longer just the doll and Max in the room, this presence had weight, palpable and heavy. "Mommy," Max's voice trembled, the innocence slipping from his tone. "Billy says she's my sister." The words struck Claire like a physical blow. A sister? Confusion tangled with fear in her heart. She had read the diary's tales of spirits, of children lost and forgotten, but a sister? Had they taken her child, turned him into a vessel for their scheme? Max, she shouted. He is lying. You have to fight it. But the moment her plea left her lips, the room dipped into a frigid gloom, a sickly chill crawling along her spine. The figure's features sharpened. A gaunt face, hollowed cheeks, eyes that glimmered with a knowing depth. There it was, the glimmer of a child, but twisted by the darkness that seeped from the doll. It was both entrancing and repulsive, a beautiful nightmare. "Mommy, please don't let her go," Max pleaded, small hands still clutching the doll's lifeless grip. Like a predator circling a wounded animal, the figure laughed softly, the sound wrapping around Claire, squeezing her breath from her lungs. "Don't you see? She has always been here, waiting for you to acknowledge her. Just let go." A tempest of energy roared through the room, the shadows writhing and undulating as if alive. Claire struggled against the binding grip of despair. "You don't have to give in, Max. Remember our family." Suddenly, the laughter morphed into a high-pitched screech. The shadows converged, filling every corner of the room with a palpable darkness that pressed down on Claire. The weight suffocated her, pulling her toward the ground as if the floor itself conspired with the malevolence around them. Just as she felt her strength waning, Claire remembered the words from the diary. They were her lifeline, a conduit of protection. She gripped the edges of the diary, the rough pages brushing against her fingertips like a heartbeat. "Max!" she screamed, pouring all her energy into those words, which were dangerously close to disappearing into the chaos. "Listen to the love. Just take my hand." But Max stood frozen, transfixed by the ethereal figure, a ghostly smirk creeping across its face as if it fed off his indecision. "You can join us, little brother. We can play forever. Just let go." Claire's heart thundered painfully in her chest. She needed him back. "Max! Fight back. I believe in you, in us." The shadows recoiled, and for an instant, she saw flickers of recognition in Max's eyes, a battle waging deep within. The warmth of their bonds pulled at something in him. The sinister pressure of darkness retreated just a fraction, but then the room began to shake. "Join us," the figure's voice dripped with temptation. "You want to know the truth?" Claire's head spun. "What truth?" she gasped, feeling the emotional battlefield crackle between them. Did she truly want to know? "I can show you what happened." The figure's lips curled, and the shadows coiled tighter around Claire, cold and sinister. Max winced, his small body trembling. For every breath Claire took, a new wave of despair crashed over her. What was happening to him? Could she save him from this twisted fate? Then, she saw a glimmer of light behind Max's own eyes, as if he could almost shine through the darkness, the flicker of his spirit trying to claw its way back. Suddenly, the power shifted again with a force that knocked Claire back. "You can't stop it," the figure hissed, eyes flickering like dying stars. "You've awakened what was best left buried." In that critical instant, Max turned toward Claire, uncertainty flickering like a candle's flame. "Mommy, what do I do?" The shadows will claw relentlessly at their resolve. What horror would they unleash if they couldn't hold on? Claire's breath caught. "Stay with me," she shouted. "We'll uncover it together." Yet the laughter of the doll and the crackling whispers promised that the true terror had only begun to surface. Behind the darkness lay secrets woven with blood, a truth that might shatter everything. What was the dark truth awaiting them, and how deep did the horror run? The shadows pulsed, dark tendrils reaching toward Claire, threatening to ensnare her in their cold grip. Max staggered back, eyes glazed, caught in a trance. The chilling laughter bubbled beneath the surface, competing with Claire's cries. "Max, listen to me," she pleaded, desperation rising like bile in her throat. She staggered toward him, fighting against the overwhelming weight of despair pressing down on her. "You're stronger than this. Remember the games we played? Remember the stories?" The ethereal figure stepped closer, its eyes glinting with an unsettling joy. "Those memories are gone, Claire. This world you cling to fades with every second you hesitate. Join us forever. Max faltered, glancing from his mother to the figure. Claire's heart splintered at the sight. The connection he had once shared with her now teetered on the brink of oblivion. Max. Her voice cracked, echoing back at her like an unanswered prayer. Just then, the doll in the boy's arms trembled, its blank eyes suddenly expressive, as if it were taking a breath. "I'm here for you," Max had whispered, its tone deceptively soothing. "She won't understand, no." Claire screamed, lunging forward. The chaos compressed the air in the room, making it hard to breathe. She could feel the tendrils drawing closer, merging with the shadows, seeping into her thoughts. In one daring movement, Claire snatched the doll from his hands. "You want to take him?" she shouted as she felt the bitter chill seep into her skin from the doll. She held it up like a shield, but the energy felt like it would burn her. "You're nothing but a vessel of lies." The figure recoiled, its laughter shifting to a furious growl. "You think feeble words can protect you against the truth? Against what lives within?" Claire's thoughts raced. She thought back to every line in the diary, to the fragments of history woven into every word. "Max, look at me," she demanded, forcing herself to meet his gaze. "You are my son. We are family." For a fleeting moment, the connection sparked, a thin beam of light in a murky void. She saw recognition flicker in his eyes, a warmth igniting just beneath the surface. But the shadows surged again, crashing down like a tide. "Remember your sister," the figure taunted, its voice dark and mocking. "You want to understand? I'm the secret of your past, the truth that was kept hidden. Embrace me, little brother, find your home." A low rumble emanated from the ground as the room shook violently, walls bending and creaking, whispering threats long buried. Claire breathed rapidly, panic flooding her veins. "Max, you have to choose. Choose love over this." The shadows laughed as they twisted and wriggled, drowning out her voice. Claire felt her resolve waning, an icy grip tightening around her heart. Max's expression twisted, teetering between longing and horror. "Mommy," his voice trembled, as if sound alone could break the spell. "I don't know what to choose." Suddenly, the doll's face twisted into a grin, malice emanating from its tiny mouth. "You'll know soon enough," it echoed, the darkness feeding on fear. "Max, listen to me. You're not alone," Claire shouted, voice breaking through the static of despair. "You are loved. You are light. Fight it with everything you have." As she spoke, Claire felt a shift, a heart-stopping moment where the intense darkness paused, as if caught off guard by the desperate power of a mother's love. "Mommy, I want to fight," Max cried, another flicker of his spirit shining through the haze. "But it hurts." Then, amid the chaos, the figure began to dissolve into shadows, revealing hints of another reality, a familiar face emerging from the void, a face that mirrored Claire's own. "What?" Claire breathed, the realization slicing through her like a knife. "What have we awakened?" The figure grinned, eyes glinting, revealing knowledge hidden long ago. The suggestion of an unspeakable truth loomed, its shadow larger than anything they had faced. Would they be able to uncover it, confront the horror that had tainted their family's history? Just then, the room erupted in a deafening roar, the darkness collapsing around them, shattering like glass. What truth lay behind the haunting smile of the baby in the painting? Their fate hung in the balance, swaying between love and darkness. The roar faded into silence, leaving Claire in a vacuum of dread. The shadows that clung to her like damp fog began to retreat, but the void left behind throbbed with an unsettling energy. She clutched the doll tightly, the eerie cold radiating from it slicing through her resolve. "Max!" she called, her voice trembling. She turned, scanning the room. The darkness curled away from her, slithering back toward the corners as if fearful of her defiance. The familiar face that had emerged from the void now swirled and shifted, reminding her of the nights she'd read stories to Max, each word a thread that had woven their bond. "Mommy, I can't see." Max's voice quivered, urgency lacing his words. "Everything's gone dark. Stay with me." Claire shouted, willing her heart to remain steady. "Keep your eyes on my voice. Fight it, Max." The shadows pulsated, slinking closer, but their advance faltered as if caught in the wake of Claire's determination. She could feel the darkness press on her skin, an unseen weight urging her to succumb. The doll throbbed in her grip, its coldness almost painfully intense. Such spirit. The figure sneered from the darkness, taking shape once more, its eyes glimmering like black holes eager to swallow her hope. "But love will not save you. Love is what led you here." A scream lodged in her throat. She pressed her back against the wall, breathing hard. "What do you mean?" The figure smirked. "You dug too deep, Claire. Your past has claws. It wants you. And it hungers for blood. Stop it." Max cried out, desperation echoing in his voice. The shadows entwined around him, squeezing like a serpent, dragging him down into the depths of hopelessness. Claire felt each tug, the visceral pain of his struggle snapping her focus. The walls shook again, the floor trembling beneath them. The shadowy laughter grew louder, clashing violently against Claire's heartbeat. "Gather your memories, little Max." It taunted, "Strip away the light. Only then will you find your home." A memory flickered in Claire's mind, a faded photograph of that haunted house they'd visited years ago. They had laughed and played while dark secrets whispered through the creaking floorboards. Suddenly, that laughter felt hollow. "Max. Do you remember the house where we found the painting?" She cried, grasping at the fragments that tethered them to each other. "You said it felt alive. Focus on that memory. Focus on what brought us joy." The shadows hesitated, dark coils unfurling slightly as Claire's conviction cut through the sinister haze. "Yes, focus on us. The laughter, the games, the love we built." Max's eyes flickered, uncertainty battling fear. "Mommy, I don't want to lose you. You won tea." She insisted, fiercely. "I'm right here. Take my hand." Suddenly, the doll writhed, shifting in an unnatural rhythm, the grin stretching wider, burgeoning with malice. "Your love is weak. It will not protect you from what lives inside me." "Shut up." Claire screamed, the word tearing from her lips as a flood of anger surged through her. "You're just a puppet of darkness. You don't own Max. You don't own me." The figure recoiled momentarily, astonishment flickering across its gaunt features. But just then, the laughter crescendoed, drowning out her words, encasing everything in a cocoon of despair. "Feel that?" The figure intoned silkily. "That's the bond of family. Feel it strain against the force of truth. It doesn't matter how hard you fight, soon, the shades will reclaim you." The room roared in response, drawing in closer, walls echoing with the clamor of what was to come. "Max!" Claire yelled, but her voice felt smaller, lost amid the impending chaos. "Trust me. Hold on to our love." As the tendrils of shadow crashed forward, a distant whisper in the recesses of Claire's mind twisted like a knife. What if love wasn't enough this time? Then, in an unsettling silence, Max's eyes widened. "Mommy, look! The painting!" Her breath caught painfully in her throat. The walls pulsed, revealing the painting that had always lurked in the corner, its haunting baby face framed against the sinister backdrop. But this time, the baby's smile was not just disturbing, it seemed alive, inviting, alluring. It pulled at her thoughts, luring her closer to a truth she couldn't yet name. What terrifying reality awaited them as they faced the painting's secret? Would it lead to salvation or to their final despair? As Claire's heartbeat synced with the thrumming of the shadows, one question haunted her: what was the price of the truth that lurked behind that smile? The painting dominated the wall, its vibrant colors somehow more vivid than the encroaching shadows. Dread pooled in Claire's stomach as she studied the baby's face, which seemed to shift subtly, its eyes twinkling with a knowing glimmer that made her shiver. "Max, stay close," she whispered, even as a surge of instinct warned her to flee. Dread intermingled with curiosity. "What do you see?" she asked, her voice grim. "What does the baby want?" Max hesitated. His small body trembled. I think it's watching us. It looks like it knows." The shadows writhed, sensing Claire's flickering resolve. "You feel it too," the figure crooned, a sickly satisfaction lacing its words. "That bond between you and the painting, it's intoxicating, isn't it? Secrets don't just exist, they call to be unearthed." Fear drummed in Claire's chest as she took a hesitant step toward the painting. It stirred, the baby's smile stretching wider, as if urging her to advance. "Max, stay behind me," she yelled, desperate to shield him from whatever darkness thrummed in the air. "Mommy, I can't just stand here." "Don't!" she barked. But her voice softened as she glanced back at him, seeing his wide eyes filled with fear. It crushed her spirit to witness her child teetering on the edge of despair. The shadows roared, clanging like metal against metal, reverberating through the walls, shaking the foundation. "What is home without sacrifice, dear Claire?" the figure taunted, slinking toward her. "The past is alive, waiting to reclaim what belongs to it. Do you not want to know the truth?" "Yes, we do," Max cried, his tone fierce with a childish bravado, though Claire could see the fear gnawing at him. The shadows hissed, apprehending his rising courage. "Then come to the painting," the figure urged, its voice smooth and viscous. "Let it guide you. Unravel the threads of your memories. Relinquish your fears." Suddenly, the painting shimmered, the baby's face distorting. The colors warped, shadowy claws creeping in from the edges of the canvas as if something desired to breach through reality. "Max!" Claire shouted, lunging back toward him, heart racing. But the pull was unbearable. It felt as if the painting sang a melody only she could hear, a promise of hidden truths buried in the depths, tantalizing yet terrifying. She swallowed hard, battling an advancing fear that prickled like ice on her skin. Every part of her screamed to shield herself and Max, yet every fiber of her being craved illumination. "Why did you bring us here?" she demanded of the figure, defiance rushing to her aid. "What do you want? You brought this upon yourself." It sneered, voice dripping with irony. "Your insatiable hunger for truth. Now, you must choose, will you uncover the roots of your pain, or will you let the shadows consume you?" At that, the shadows surged, slashing toward her like a violent wind. Claire felt the weight of their despair, heavy and pressing, but beneath it simmered her protective instinct for Max Boom. The room trembled violently, splintering the air around them. "Mommy! No!" Claire reached for Max, but the pull of the painting intensified. It felt tangible, like the grasp of a hand, intertwining their fates in a grotesque game. The laughter echoed again through the depths, jarring and haunting, drowning out every heartbeat in the room until they were but a whisper. Max stumbled, nearly falling into the shadowy void, but Claire just caught him, yanking him backward. The bond between them was a taut line, but the tearing sensation beneath her skin gnawed at her fervently. "What do we do?" he whimpered, eyes darting around like a trapped animal. "What is happening, Mommy?" Breath quickened, time spinning uncontrollably, every second pulling them deeper into a vortex of shadows and memories. The painting pulsed again, thrumming as if alive. "Max, hold on. We have to face this together," she shouted. The chaotic tempest around them intensified. But before she could react, the painting glimmered with a final burst of light. A shockwave ripped through, throwing them back against the wall. "You think you can defy me?" the figure howled, rage flashing in its blackened eyes. Claire clutched Max tightly, her heart hammering in her chest. They were inches from a chasm of terror and uncertainty where the baby glared, its smile ever unsettling. Then, through the chaos, she heard it almost a whisper against the storm. Look deeper. What else lay hidden behind the eerie smile? What dark truth awaited their brave investigation? Claire's breath caught, a cold knot tightening in her throat. She felt the relentless pulse of the painting, thrumming not just in her chest, but echoing through the very room. Reality seemed to pulse in time with the colors, the shadows flinging themselves against the walls, vying for her attention. Look deeper. The words wrapped around her mind, leaving a chill that settled in her bones. A knot of instincts urged her to flee, but a morbid curiosity kept her rooted. "Mommy, what is going on?" Max's voice quivered, barely above a whisper. Claire could sense his fear, an electric charge in the air that prickled against her skin. "Stay with me, Max," she hoarsely managed, eyes locked on the painting. She couldn't break away. The figure in the shadows danced closer, its laughter a cruel lullaby that sent shivers crawling down her spine. "What if the truth is richer than you dare to imagine, dear Claire?" The voice slithered around her, thick and suffocating. "Reality wears many masks. What if you saw your own reflection in the darkness?" In that moment, the baby's eyes flared again, brighter than before. The gaze pierced through her, awakening long-buried memories that clashed violently against the surface of her mind. She had seen that same twinkle before, in the flickering eyes of relatives long gone, secrets buried beneath layers of polite smiles. Claire's heart raced, a frantic beat that threatened to drown her thoughts. The shadows writhed, as if grasping for something just beyond her reach. "What do you want from us?" she shouted into the tempest. "You've already taken so much. Will you face your own darkness?" The figure cooed, its smirk a gaping void. "Or will you choose to let it destroy you? Memories can bind or liberate, it's your choice." Max released a small whimper, trembling beside her. "I feel it too, Mommy. I feel it in my heart." "Listen, Max," Claire breathed, a desperate hope igniting somewhere deep within her. "We might find out what happened. If it's bad, we can face it together." The shadows surged, a roar that threatened to overwhelm them. "Face it? Oh, how delightful." The figure clapped its hands together with an eerie enthusiasm. "You are so close, dear Claire. Look deeper. The truth will either free you or consume you whole." Max's small hands gripped her arm, knuckles white, and in that moment, they became anchors for each other. "We can do this," Claire assured him, swallowing the fear that threatened to choke her. "Together." Slowly, against her own instincts, she stepped closer to the painting, the edges darkening as if the canvas itself breathed ominously. The baby's smile widened, radiating an unsettling warmth that clashed violently with the raging shadows. It felt as if everything was converging against her, while a haunting symphony rising to a horrific crescendo. Suddenly, the air thickened, the humidity pressing against her skin, suffocating. Just when Claire thought she'd drown in the darkness, shapes began to materialize within the swirling shadows, snapshots of past pain shimmering before her eyes, a birthday party, a forgotten lullaby, laughter that echoed from a distance. Faces flickered like candle flames, momentarily illuminating what had long been shrouded in grief. "Mommy, look!" Max cried, his voice ringing with a newfound intensity. "It's us." There they were, smiling, carefree, living in a time untouched by fear. Claire floated closer, desperation clawing at her throat. But there was something lurking within those happy moments, hinting at a darker narrative she couldn't yet decipher. Before she could grasp it, the shadows churned violently, ripping the happy memories apart. "You see? You cannot run from the truth." The figure howled, laughter echoing like a death knell. "You must confront what has been hidden." Time twisted as the painting darkened, and all the warm colors were swallowed by the black. "Max!" Claire screamed, fear erupting in a torrent, her heart racing as she stretched an arm toward him. And just like that, the connection between them snapped, the energy pulling her away as she lunged. forward swallowed by the shadows as the baby's grin turned predatory. But in the depths of that darkness, a question danced in her mind, shifting like smoke. What if facing that truth could mean facing the darkness within herself? We have to find it, she yelled, her voice echoing into the abyss. Whatever secret it hides, we'll uncover it. Would they emerge unscathed? Or would the shadows take them forever? The flicker of hope lingered only momentarily, overshadowed by the encroaching terror looming ahead. The darkness underestimated the bonds of love. As Claire's heart raced, she felt the energy intensify around her, swirling like a silent storm. She clutched the air, fighting against the oppressive force wrapping so tightly around her. Shadows thickened, feeding off the fear radiating from her and Max, but she wouldn't yield. Max! Claire screamed, lunging through the darkness toward his last sound, but every instinct screamed for her to flee. Memories flickered like breath in the cold, offering snippets of warmth she longed to hold on to. Laughter echoed a siren call, but it wasn't the joyous laughter of her son. It was mocking, taunting. Max! She pushed through the tendrils wrapping around her legs, every ounce of energy surrendered to reach him. The connection could not sever, it mustn't. Trust our love. It stands against the shadows. Suddenly, she felt him. A shift, a tremor in the air she could hardly grasp. Mommy! His small voice called, seemingly lost, but laced with longing. I can't see you. Claire's pulse quickened, and with fire igniting her spirits, she bolted toward the sound. I'm here. Focus on my voice. Her surroundings pulsated, shadows writhing in response to her call. She could hear his little breaths, growing frantic against the growing malevolence, but she could feel their bond pushing back against the weight of despair. With each step, the presence around her shifted, churning in anger, unwilling to let them reunite. You cannot save him. He belongs to the shadows now. The figure hissed, voice gliding through the swirling void. No! Claire shouted, a defiance spilling out like a roaring wave. You will not take him. And just like that, a flicker of light broke through the oppressive haze, illuminating the shapes dancing across the room, the shapes of her family bound together, alive in memories sewn together with love. In moments of joy, she saw him, the real Max, his laughter ringing from every corner of her heart. Fight, Max. Remember our stories. Our games. Claire called out, overpowering the darkness with her presence. We built those smiles together, they're part of us. The shadows recoiled, a ripple passing through them as her fierce resolve ignited something deep within Max's. Mommy. I remember. He cried, and Claire felt the shockwave of their connection expand, lifting the weight of despair. The figure hissed, twisting with fury. No. They do not belong to you. Their love is a chain you will never break. Max's eyes locked onto hers. I want to come home. Then come with me. Claire shouted, and she reached out with every ounce of love and trust. The shadows surged one last time, crashing against her like an unrelenting tide, but the power kindled in their bond blazed brightly enough to push back. The moment their fingers touched, a shockwave sent ripples of light cascading through the darkness, pushing it back, unveiling fragments of their history. The haunting memories entwined, forcing back the oppressive energy threatening their reunion. Light bloomed, slicing through the shadows, revealing more than just murky recollections. It opened pathways to forgotten faces, lost truths, and the joy they shared. The figure shrieked, raw terror rippling through its form, but Claire held on, growing bolder in her shine. I will not let you take him. Claire roared, summoning every ounce of maternal strength. As the shadows lurched, something shattered, a mirror revealing the truth hidden behind the baby's enigmatic smile. The truth thundered through Claire's heartbeat, echoing in Max's eyes. The voice nearby, almost sugary, whispered promises of safety. Mommy, I can see them. He gasped, wavering between light and dark, teetering on the edge of two worlds. They look happy. They were never lost, Max. They were merely buried by pain. Together, we can bring them back. The shadows writhed violently, uncoiling the darkness like a serpent unthreatened, but with every scream, Claire pushed against it, invoking the warmth that guided the ethereal reunion of family. But the figure twisted in fury, its form distorting, circle compressing. You think you can rewrite your past? It screamed. The truth will drown you. But Claire saw it now, everything reflected in the edges of the mirror. A missing piece, a longing a mother couldn't fully apprehend until now. Dark laughter pulsed around her, but she felt stronger, fortified by the truth of what they had endured. Together, we chose love. Claire declared, shouting into the center of the storm. We are family. In that moment, the shadows erupted, light burst through as if reality had cracked open in a flash of brilliance. The whispers transformed, sweet nothings turned gentle, warm, and vast like a mother's embrace. Finally, the figure dissolved, howling, its essence dissipating like smoke in the wind. The shadows receded, the veil lifting. The painting itself shimmered, releasing memories that danced through the air, past the familiarity of living souls finding solace with one another. Then, Claire was enveloped in the warm embrace of her son, a safety born from sharing something deeper than fear. She could feel the light glow around them, lifting them higher, where laughter transformed shadows into flickers of faith and connection. Mommy, you did it! Max exclaimed, his eyes shining bright with wonder, no longer lost in shadows, but pooled with hope. Standing before the familiar painting, emptied of dread, Claire realized the truth: darkness could never extinguish the love that had shaped their lives. Their past, woven with both pain and connection, found healing in unity, blooming like wildflowers across the evening sky. As they turned from the wall, Claire could barely breathe, knowing they had discovered a life anchored in love, freed from the hauntings of shadows that only felt real because they let them fester. Are you ready to go home? Claire whispered, a world waiting beyond the veil of mysteries. More than anything. Max replied, his laughter ringing like bells in the gentle air. And with that, they stepped into the embrace of the new dawn, where darkness couldn't hold weight against the strength of their love. As they walked away, the painting shimmered behind them, a guardian of memories, a reminder of the battle faced, and the bond that reshaped their destinies. But Claire knew this wasn't an ending. It was just the beginning of a new chapter, a life where dark truths were embraced by light, breathing hope into every dawn. So, what will be your next step? If you resonated with their journey, take a moment now to subscribe immediately so you don't miss exclusive stories that can move and inspire. Smash that like button now to help feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the twists and turns in the story. Share this journey with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion, because this is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second. The adventure continues. Be part of the community.